Hello there, YouTube, minor community, and hello there, Matt Hayes. This is a response to your 250 subscribers contest. Congratulations to all of these. You're a pretty new channel to me. I just subscribed to your channel. I thought it looked interesting. You seem to have a very interesting musical taste. I saw that you showed a lot of 80s album, which always interests me. You do some real good editing, a fun channel, so it's going to be interesting to follow you. This contest also seemed very interesting. You wanted us to pick our favorite year and show 2 albums from that year. Pick out a year was pretty easy. I think I mentioned time and time again that my favorite year in pop history is 1985. Picking out albums was a little tougher. I could have made it easy for myself. I have a couple of favorite albums from 1985 that I could have shown again and again and again, that I show numerous times here in my channel. So I thought I was going to pick out a couple of albums from 85 that I haven't been showing for a while, and that was a little bit tougher. First of all, the reason why 1985 is my favorite year is mostly of nostalgic reasons, because that was the year when I started to discover pop music for real, when I became a pop nerd. During that summer and that autumn. And the autumn is also one important point here, because as we approached autumn, and my favorite year is 85, I chose to go to the autumn 1985, which was a very interesting year, interesting time, when I more or less swallowed everything that had a synthesizer in music. When I heard on the radio and recorded it on tape, I was totally into pop music at that year. And also, I think 1985 is a very great year because it has synthesizers. It has also some elements of regular pop. It has a whole lot of blend of whole different stuff in the music that year. It's a year when it stands between the total synth revolution, at least when it comes to European music, standing with 1 foot in the synthesizer music and 1 foot in something more regular pop music, and the music sounded so amazing at the time. So that's why 1985 is my favorite year. And I thought I was going to do a little theme. I already mentioned the autumn 1985, and during that autumn 1985, I was 10 years old. In November I became 11, and I read a whole lot of comics, and I read some pop music magazines, and on the back side of these there were this is a number of the Swedish pop magazine OK, that was released for many years. Back in the 80s it was a musical magazine filled with music, and turned a decade later into a more girl magazine. But in the 80s it was a pure music magazine that many of us youngsters loved. Here is a issue from 1986. This, unfortunately, not from 85, but it's just an example of what I saw there. without the proper sleeve, unfortunately. But hey, it's almost more than 30 years old, this magazine. But the back sleeve is here, and here they had mail order. You can order records through mail, and in many of these magazines, also in ordinary weekly magazines for older, they had these where you can see a record sleeve, and it mentioned some titles here in the description, and even though this is just an example, but this had much heavy metal albums, which I wasn't all that interested in. I remember looking at it and thinking that some of these sleeves look so scary, wondering what kind of music is it that on these albums, that when they had the cover that looked so scary, like this Black Sabbath album. Looking today, I can only see 2 of these albums that I actually have. Deep Purple, Made in Japan, and Bryan Adams, You Want It, You Got It. These are the only albums I have of these ones. But then, okay, I'm not a heavy metal fan. But on comic album, on comic magazines, they also had pop albums that you could mail by order, order for 100 Swedish crowns or something like that. And I used to look at those albums, thinking that, pointing out which one of them I recognized from the radio and which one I wanted to have one day, and that is my theme. Records from 1985 that I looked for in the back of these comic magazines, and these magazines, wishing that I would have one day, because those thoughts was what more or less grounded my record collection, or what made me wanted to buy records a year later. And 2 albums that I looked at these magazines, these mail order ads, wanting to have, that I now actually have. I have most of them, of course, but that I wanted to have. But I picked out 2 of them that I was looking at these ads and drooling for. One of them is Thompson Twins, Here's to Future Days. Thompson Twins today I feel is sadly forgotten. They're not mentioned all that much, even though they were such a great band, with so many funky great songs and amazing melodies, amazing production with little funky beat and great drums mixed with the synthesizers and great sense for pop music. So I remember wanting to have this album. I think this is an amazing album. Maybe their best album, of course. Don't Mess with Dr. Dream. I so loved that song when it was a hit in the autumn of 1985. Such an amazing song. And you have here also Lay Your Hands on Me. That was a hit before this album was even released in 1984, but the album was released in 1985. And you have also here King for a Day, was a huge hit that I liked very much at the time. You also have a very strange version of Beatles' Revolution. Maybe not the best song of this album, I admit that, but it's okay. It's very exciting. But this is a great album. Highly recommended, that I remember wanting to have, and that I finally got it, and it lived up to my expectations. Same goes with Paul Young, Secretive Association. Also an album that I looked for and thought that I really wanted. This is also a magnificent album that lived up to my expectations once I got it. And also here filled with hits. you have Every Time You Go Away, the famous cover of Hall & Oates song. I'm Gonna Tear Your Playhouse Down, and Everything Must Change, such an amazing ballad, and a very forgotten song that I loved very, very much and still do. I think this, I am a little bit of a sucker of songs that was a smaller hit, because many of these in the 80s could have been so much bigger, should have been so much bigger, and that goes for A Tomb of Memories, that I think is such an amazing song, maybe one of Paul Young's best songs ever, but it's so sadly forgotten today. And Secret Association is very much a blend between 80s pop, synth pop, and a little bit of Motown soul in the edges, with a choir that he had that sang so well and made it sound like real soul style, which Paul Young, I know, is a great fan of a Motown soul, of course. And real highly recommended 80s classic, this The Secret Association by Paul Young. But then, of course, I could have shown way more than 2 albums from 1985. More albums that I looked for at these ads and drooled over when I was a kid, like Howard Jones' Dream into Action, that I really want to have, Go West debut. So many albums that I love that have been shown numerous times before. So 1985 always will be in my heart as one of the best years in pop music, and it's both by nostalgia and that it was released so many great albums and music that year. So with that, Matt Hayes, I hope that you are satisfied with my response. I hope that you have a short time left for this contest, so I don't know how many more responses you will have, but I hope that you have had a whole lot of responses, and I will keep following your channel very much more. So take care, everybody, and it will be a Gothenburg video out pretty soon. And I also, as I showed in my previous video, I also have a 10 from 1 count for the best songs in the 90s also that I'm going to edit soon. So until next time, take care, everybody, and so long.